This is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek Gilbert.
Not everything is a conspiracy. Welcome to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. Thank you for joining me. Once again, this will be a week where I'm sitting in front of the microphone, and I'll talk about that in just a moment again as to why I'm doing this instead of an interview. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Thank you. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit that like button, and then, you know the drill. But then please download our free mobile app. That gets you all of our content right to your smartphone or tablet. You can also get versions for Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, Fire TV, and bring it right to your big screen, bypassing the gatekeepers of big tech, which is the main reason for doing it, but also very important. On the mobile app, we've got a messaging feature where you can gather with other like-minded believers, share notes with one another, ask questions directly of Sharon and me, which we will address each week on our Gilbert House Fellowship Bible Study and PID Radio. And you'll find the links to the App Store or the App Store for your device at VFTB.net. Look in the top menu bar for the link, or go directly to our main web hub, which is gilberthouse.org/app, gilberthouse.org/app, and get that mobile app and join the community of believers. And again, bring all of our content right into your smartphone or tablet, because sooner or later on this particular program, A View from the Bunker, which has been around since 2009, I'm probably going to say something political that will get us violate a terms of service or community guidelines or something. It's happened a couple of times. Not enough to get the whole channel taken down, but when we talk about things that are, related to the official narrative, sometimes these things happen. And the official narrative is kind of what I want to talk about today. In the wake of the tragic event of Wednesday night, this past Wednesday evening, where American Airlines flight, was it 50, what was the flight number? Anyway, the regional airline, the flight that took off from Wichita, Kansas, and went down after colliding with an Army Blackhawk helicopter over the Potomac River. It was on final approach to Reagan National Airport, and really tragic because all 67 people involved, 64 on the American Airlines flight, and then 3 on the Blackhawk helicopter, lost their lives. No survivors. This is the first midair commercial airline crash in the United States since 2009. And of course, it didn't take very long for people to begin theorizing that something beyond the official narrative had taken place. Friends of ours who we love, respect, and will continue to fellowship with were convinced that there was something more that had taken place than just a human error or something else as the crash took place on Wednesday night. After the crash took place Wednesday night, again, this was a Bombardier CRJ 700 regional jet. We have some experience with these as we, Sharon and me, typically fly out of the Springfield-Branson National Airport. The national airports are ones that typically handle smaller craft. Sometimes we get the larger, the Boeing aircraft, but usually we're flying on a Bombardier or an Embraer regional craft that flies to a hub like Dallas, Chicago, Denver, Charlotte, Atlanta. Those are the main hubs that are served out of Springfield-Branson. We're comfortable enough flying on these craft. This was one, again, that flew from Wichita to Ronald Reagan National Airport in D.C. It's right in downtown D.C. A lot of people like this airport because it's closer into where they need to go in D.C. than Dulles International, which is further out, takes you maybe an hour or more to get into Washington, D.C. From this particular airport. Reagan is very close to the Pentagon and right on the Potomac River. So the craft coming from Wichita, again, sadly had a number of people, 14 people returning home from a national figure skating development camp. And some of them Russian skaters who were world class and others who basically were training for international competition in Wichita, and then presumably connecting at in D.C. for other flights or wherever they were bound from the connecting airport in D.C. Maybe they were transferring there to Dulles to fly on to wherever they were going after this. Again, just one of these things that is so stunning and shocking that it kind of galvanizes the nation for a moment into forgetting our political differences. And I say for a moment because, of course, it didn't take very long for that to change as well. And maybe we'll touch on that. I'm trying to be rather gentle about this because I don't want to, throw anybody under the bus or be mean-spirited about this. But we've gotten to a point in our culture here, thanks to the internet, but also thanks to government. I mean, government is really responsible for this. If you've been following Sharon and me for any length of time, going back to the early days of PID radio in 2005, PID standing for Peering into Darkness, we are referred to by some as the OGs of Christian podcasting. It's because we are the old geezers who've been doing this for 20 years. Our 20th anniversary is coming up in early March of PID radio. We were early enough with PID radio that the Apple, when they were still calling it the iTunes Store before calling it Apple Podcasts, were actively soliciting, please submit your podcast to us so we can, they needed content. So we were early on, beginning in March of 2005. And you can tell when you listen to the archives available at our app going back to 2005, the audio quality back then, excuse me, absolutely awful compared to what we have available to us today. But anyway, we have for 20 years made a point of investigating and questioning the official narratives on many, many accounts. And again, some of these have gotten certain episodes pulled off of the video sharing site you may be watching this program on right now. In an interview with, say, Sheila Zielinski that questioned an interview with a former intelligence community professional that questioned official narratives, one with our good friend Dr. Gregory Reed about trafficking. Those all got yanked off. So my point is that we are not shy about asking questions when questions are warranted. Sharon, who's been watching emerging diseases since before we met, because that's her interest, that's her training. She's got a degree in molecular biology with an emphasis on genetics. So when the first reports began emerging from China in December of 2019, she was right on it. And I'm not trying to say this to pat ourselves on the back. I'm just stating this as a fact that can be corroborated. If you want to go back and find our archives for the Sci Friday programs that we used to produce, find the ones from late January of 2020, where we were the first, as far as I know, talking about this, at least among the Christian podcasting community, about this new mysterious pneumonia-like disease coming out of China that we need to be paying attention to because it appears to have a high rate of transmissibility and the infection fatality rate appears to be very high. Now, again, this was the early days before we started seeing some peer-reviewed studies that questioned the infection fatality rate that we were being told. All right? We were early on that. And but I will say this, as soon as President Trump announced Operation Warp Speed, Sharon was the first person I know of, despite the fact that this was coming from President Trump, and it's, okay, we've made no secret of our political preferences here over the years, but she was the first one to say, this is not going to work. And it had nothing to do with the type of vaccine that was being prepared. Although she did say there's a reason that this particular type has never been approved for human testing. It's because we don't know what the long-term side effects might be. And rushing this out to the public in a matter of months rather than years is dangerous. But the reason it's not going to work is because RNA viruses like the coronavirus, dubbed SARS-CoV-2, mutates far too quickly for any vaccine manufacturer, regardless of the process, to keep up with it. So again, this was not a political thing, because remember, it was President Trump who launched this. And we on Sci Friday were questioning, this isn't going to work because they won't be able to keep up with the rate of mutation of this virus. And she was right. She was right. Now, I'm just saying this to lay the groundwork for what I'm about to say. We have for years questioned the official narratives. Things like the Gulf of Tonkin incident, okay? 9/11, the fact that the Franklin Roosevelt administration withheld key information from Admiral Kimmel at Pearl Harbor that would have been really, really useful and saved lots of lives of American sailors and servicemen and women in Hawaii. The official narrative on major events like this is more often than not false. However, not everything is a conspiracy. The incident that took place on Wednesday night over Washington, D.C., with American Airlines Flight 5342 and the Army helicopter was, it's the simplest explanation, which is probably correct, simply human error. A friend of ours who is a retired pilot shared with me a YouTube video from a channel called Captain Steve. And by all accounts, from what I can tell, Captain Steve is a pilot with experience. Our friend, a retired pilot, said his explanation is the most reasonable and has the most explanatory power of anything that he's seen. He's simply, Captain Steve, in his analysis, going through the air traffic control audio and overlaying it with video from sites like FlightAware and showing where the relative locations were of AA Flight 5342 and the Army helicopter. It appears that what happened was the tower at Reagan National, in contact with the Army helicopter, asked if they had visual of the incoming flight. Asked the helicopter pilot twice, do you have this flight in sight? And the helicopter pilot confirmed both times, visual confirmation, and that he would maintain visual separation. What it appears happened is that flying at night, this was after 8:30 p.m., about 8:48 p.m. local time. The helicopter pilot was looking at the wrong plane. I mean, again, flying at night and looking out of the cockpit at another incoming flight behind AA 5342. So by confirming that he had visual on the incoming flight and that he was responsible for visual separation, it was not the tower's responsibility to say, you're wrong, there's another plane coming in, you're looking at the wrong plane. But the helicopter pilot had confirmed and had taken responsibility. Yes, I've got the plane in sight and I will maintain visual separation, but he was looking at the wrong set of lights incoming. Another flight that was behind the Bombardier American Airlines 5342 incoming, and didn't see it. And you can hear and I will put a link to the analysis by Captain Steve in the notes below, so you can watch this for yourself and judge what you think. But it makes sense to me, and again, the fact that this was recommended to us by a retired pilot and said this is a good evaluation of what probably happened. It's not the final word, and Captain Steve says so at the beginning of his video. So, this is not the final word on this. Certainly the FAA is going to investigate and confirm, but it appears that what happened, simply human error. The helicopter pilot confirmed to the tower, I've got the plane in sight, but he was looking at the wrong plane. And because of that, sadly, 67 souls were lost. Now, there are some who looked at the runway to which the American Airlines flight had been directed, runway 33, and nudge, nudge, wink, wink, 33. 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemasons. This is clearly there was an occult signature here. No, the runways at airports are designated based on their compass direction. So runway 33, there are many airports across the United States that have a runway 33. There's only like 3 runways at Reagan. So why would they have a runway 33? Because when you're approaching or taking off, you are flying to the northwest. 330 degrees compass heading, hence runway 33. That's all that means. Again, not everything is a conspiracy. Sadly, sometimes it is just human error, and that appears to be what is happening here. Now coming back to diseases. We have been tracking emerging diseases. Sharon has especially. This is something that she watches for on a regular basis. And she's been keeping a close eye on avian flu for a long, long time. In fact, some of the earliest interviews we did on PID Radio were with Dr. Henry Nyman, who has a firm called Recombinomics. So named because he watches for the recombination of DNA in viruses to track how a virus may exchange genetic material in an organic biological mixing vessel, like a pig, a bird, human. Viruses may mutate, share genetic material, and suddenly have a new set of capabilities that it didn't have previously. That's a very simplistic way of explaining it, but I am not the biologist. Sharon is. So again, going back 20 years, some of our earliest interviews with Dr. Henry Nyman, you can find those in the archives at pidradio.com or going to our mobile app and doing a search for Nyman, N-I-M-A-N. All of our interviews are tagged with the names of the speakers to make it easier to find those interviews inside our app. When avian flu, H5N1 in particular, mutates in a certain way, it can become dangerous to humans. And this is why, in fact, when she wrote her book, The Armageddon Strain, which we recently republished back in 2024, you can find a link to that at our website, gilberthouse.org. And I'll got, by the way, an announcement about our online store that I'll mention after the break. You can find it at Amazon, paperback, Kindle, audiobook even. She wrote the book based on a weaponized form of avian influenza because it would be something that would be relatively simple, plausible, let's put it this way, something that would be a plausible bioweapon. There have been quite a few stories here over the past year in the United States about avian flu and the influence that it's had on our grocery prices. Very famously or infamously, the price of eggs, which has gone through the roof. Here in our part of the Ozarks, a dozen eggs is now running, $7? $7 or $8. It's crazy how the price has gone, but this is because many flocks of laying hens have been culled. You get what they call highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI, and it can burn through a flock of chickens or turkeys or geese in a matter of a few days and leave you with a bunch of dead birds and the virus spreading through other birds, wild birds that are interacting with your flock. So to try to get ahead of it, a lot of these flocks have been culled, and sadly, it has led to a just law of supply and demand. Eggs are more expensive because there are fewer hens laying, and with fewer hens laying, there are fewer eggs. So, supply and demand, suddenly the price of eggs is going through the roof. But it is possible that with wild flocks, and this is where the culling is to try to control the spread so that wild birds, sparrows or what have you, that are landing on the farm don't interact with the chickens and then pick up the virus and then carry it to another farm and so on. Or spread it to animals that are known to be susceptible to both avian and human influenza viruses, namely pigs. This is where something could recombine and turn what is predominantly an avian virus into something that can infect and affect humans. And again, we've seen a lot of news on this because of the way it's affected our grocery prices here in the United States. But it is also something that we are quite aware can be used by the World Health Organization. If you go back to, we did a program on this on PID Radio a year ago, November, about the World Health Organization and the way it was plotting a legal framework to become a global government. The World Health Organization's amendments to the international health regulations, which were passed last spring, go into effect this coming May, essentially establish a legal, the legal infrastructure for the World Health Organization to take over global government in the event of a public health emergency of international concern, or what they call a PHIC, public health emergency of international concern. So they'll come up with another disease that will scare us all into giving the World Health Organization the power to dictate to its member states, those nations that have signed on to the international health regulations. With the current amendments, the World Health Organization claims the power to not only dictate responses to pandemics, but also to infodemics. Because as we've learned nothing from the previous pandemic, it's that misinformation, malinformation, disinformation can kill, or so they tell us. And so because of that, the World Health Organization claims the authority to dictate what can be allowed on social media. This is why Donald Trump, one of the reasons that President Trump has said we're pulling out of the WHO. Because of the world's governments, I think out of 205, something like 195 out of 200 or something like this. All but 5 nations on Earth are signatories to the international health regulations. It is an international treaty that covers basically the whole planet. And those 5 nations that haven't signed on to it are like Tobago and North Korea, just small nations. United States, United Kingdom, all of the world's major powers have signed on to it, except now President Trump is wanting to withdraw, which, of course, has been roundly criticized by people who believe in protecting the bureaucracy. A lot of the reaction to what President Trump has done over the past 2 weeks is bureaucrats trying to protect the bureaucracy instead of trying to protect us, the taxpayers who vote government into office but find out that government doesn't really run things. It's the bureaucracy, which is why there are so many voices squalling right now as the president's trying to get a handle on that. Anyway, we are aware that the World Health Organization and medical bureaucracies want to become medical dictatorships. But it doesn't mean that the emerging diseases are fake. Now, okay, we both things can be true. All right? Yes, the medical bureaucracies want to use fear over the next emerging disease to control your life. But at the same time, doesn't mean the disease is fake. Yes, there is an outbreak of Marburg in Tanzania. Marburg is a hemorrhagic fever similar to Ebola, except much deadlier. Ebola's infection fatality rate is between 25 and 50%. Marburg is closer to 90%. You don't want to get Marburg. Thankfully, the number of people infected in Tanzania is less than a dozen. So we're praying that the government there is able to control it and keep it from getting to an international airport, like the West African outbreak of Ebola back in 2014. You might remember that there were people getting onto aircraft in Liberia and flying to Europe and the United States. And thankfully, it didn't really spread beyond West Africa, but it was really bad there, where, if I remember correctly, the number of dead was something like 11,000, 14,000. I forget the number. It was more than 10,000, though. So it doesn't mean that the disease is necessarily fake. It's just that in the spirit of, was it Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Governments will attempt to use it to try to expand and consolidate power. Both things can be true at the same time. Not everything is a conspiracy. Also had a conversation this week with a friend, and I've had some interaction with people on the internet about the influence of the Rothschild banking family. And I've done a little bit of reading on this over the past 6-8 months or so, especially on our way home from Israel last May, where the solidarity mission that we took. A small group of people, 9 of us, toured some of the sites that were attacked on October 7th of 2023, visited injured soldiers at the rehabilitation center in Tel Aviv, visited Hostage Square, and of course visited sites in Jerusalem that we want to visit every time that we're there in Israel. The Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, other places, City of David, and more. And on the way back, I began reading a book that I've mentioned a number of times, and I will recommend it again. It was published 30 years ago by Mark Aarons, Aarons, and John Loftus, called The Secret War Against the Jews. And it's about how Western intelligence services have conspired against the interests of the Zionist movement beginning in the 1920s and then the State of Israel after 1948. So that was so eye-opening to me. And the focus, again, was on the predecessor to the CIA, the OSS, and then the State Department intelligence services from the 1920s and 30s. MI6 in the UK, French intelligence to a lesser degree. It was really eye-opening because we've been hearing for a long time that Jewish bankers, the Rothschilds, control everything. And that even though they're a small percentage of the world population, the Jews are in control of broadcasting and the media and so on and so forth. And I think when we step back and look at what is happening in the world and what has happened historically over the last century, I think it really begs credulity. I mean, yeah, the Rothschild to this day are still rich. No question about that. Okay. But for example, a friend was telling me that, the Rothschilds really control just everything. It's like, well, okay. I actually was curious about this because of some interactions on social media last week, and I looked up the Fortune 500 and the list of world billionaires published by Fortune magazine, and found that there's not a single member of the Rothschild banking family that is a billionaire, at least according to Fortune magazine. And when I told this to our friend, I was told, well, that doesn't mean anything. They just hide their money. It's like, okay, that's probably true. I mean, when you're rich, you can afford really good tax accountants and lawyers to hide your money. In which case, then I have to ask, how is it then that all these conspiracy YouTubers know that the Rothschilds have more than $1 trillion in assets and control the Vatican and the media? I mean, if they're hiding their money so well that a guy like me, of above average intelligence, good reading comprehension, and knowledge of internet search tools, cannot find a single member of the Rothschild banking family whose net worth is $1 billion or greater, when all of these other billionaires, who presumably also have really good tax accountants and tax attorneys, couldn't hide their money well enough to keep themselves off those lists. How is it these conspiracy YouTubers know how much money the Rothschilds have? It's just logical question as far as I'm concerned. I mean, again, if they're hiding their money so well that we can't find it, how do you know they're rich? I'm willing to accept the premise that they are, but are they rich enough to actually compel the governments of the world to do what they want? And what's in it for them? How many members of the Rothschild banking family actually live in Israel? As far as I can tell, that answer is the same number of Rothschilds that are billionaires. I could be wrong, but I've not found. I mean, when I was researching the early history of the Zionist movement and how it managed to secure the vote in the United Nations to become an independent state in 1947, declaring independence on May 14th, 1948, I found that the Rothschilds played like no role at all that mattered. Now, Edmond de Rothschild, who was the French banking family, he did support a couple of the communities that are now around, Petah Tikva is one of them, around Tel Aviv. But when the Zionists in Israel were begging for weapons in the 1930s and 40s to defend themselves against their Arab neighbors who were committing acts of terror. And yes, there were Jewish terror organizations like the Irgun and the Stern Gang. When you start doing some research, you find that they had endured about 10 years of attacks beginning in the 1920s before the Stern Gang and the Irgun began retaliating. So they didn't go into Palestine and begin the fight. They were buying land from landowners, often Turkish, Ottoman Turks who were living, in Turkey, selling off the land at inflated prices. And yet the Arab neighbors were then getting violent with them. And interestingly, under the direction and with the armaments supplied by a rogue MI6 agent named Jack Philby, who was the top MI6 operative in the region based out of Amman, Jordan. This is documented history confirmed by intelligence community operatives. It's all in the book, Secret War Against the Jews. The Rothschilds weren't helping. They did not finance the weapons. They did not exert any pressure on the British government or the U.S. government to help. In fact, because they were Jewish bankers and there was a lot of influence going in the other direction, especially after the discovery of oil in Arabia, and the Arabs were very much opposed to an independent Jewish state in Palestine. The Western bankers and oilmen who really controlled the government in the UK and in the US worked to prevent Israel becoming a nation state. And then after 1948, actually worked to assist the Arabs in trying to destroy Israel. Where were the Rothschilds then? Again, not everything is a conspiracy. Now, sometimes the history is hidden because those who had a hand in it really want their participation covered up, including one of the brothers for whom the international airport in Washington, D.C. is named, Allen Dulles. He and his brother John Foster Dulles were actually John Foster, I think, who the airport's named for. Allen was the CIA director under Eisenhower. John Foster was his Secretary of State. But both of them had a lot of dealings with companies before and during World War II that they wanted to keep secret because Germany lost the war and their clients were heavily invested in what was going on in 1930s Germany. So again, the Rothschilds were not in favor with the world of finance from really about the beginning of the 20th century through World War II. The Rothschilds' fortunes actually shrank quite a bit. Now, again, I'm still happy to believe that they are still very wealthy people, just not wealthy enough to do the things that they're supposed to be doing to this day. It just doesn't add up for me. And I will say again, Sharon and I happy to wear a tinfoil hat so that you don't have to, but not everything is a conspiracy. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about a couple of new conferences that are coming to the Ozarks, actually. We are still planning to go to Israel in October and explain why Gen Z cannot cook. Yes, Gen Z, 18 to 28-year-olds, can't cook. That and more as A View from the Bunker continues. Thousands of years ago, giants walked the earth. They are long gone, but their spirits remain. The evidence is there for those with eyes to see. Megalithic tombs, monuments aligned with the stars, and the words of the prophets and apostles recorded in Scripture. Now, see this evidence for yourself as Derek and Sharon Gilbert take you on a tour of the Holy Land with special guests Pastor Carl Gallups and Messianic Rabbi Zev Porat. From the mountain where the story began to the mountain where it all ends. Wars of the Gods, Volume 2, Search for the Rephaim. Available now in DVD and HD streaming video. Online at gilberthouse.org. Talking the walk every Sunday night from the beautiful Missouri Ozarks. This is A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. You'll find us online at VFTB.net. That's the podcast home, but our main web hub is gilberthouse.org, gilberthouse.org. My personal website, derekpgilbert.com. On social media, X, formerly Twitter, it's at ViewFromBunker, at Derek Gilbert, and at GilbertHouse_TV. You'll also find us on Facebook, the View from the Bunker page there. Please click in there, give us a thumbs up, and Truth Social and Gab at Derek P. Gilbert. We're on YouTube at Gilbert House. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit the like button, and then download our free mobile app to your smartphone, tablet, or set-top box, whether it's Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire Stick. We've got apps for all of those and links at gilberthouse.org/app. Also, we are now on Telegram. You'll find us on Telegram. The channel there is The View from the Bunker. Do the search there, View from the Bunker. The link is in the notes below. You can find it there. And we are also now on Substack. Keep forgetting to talk about that. Excuse the coughing here. Persistent dry cough over the last few weeks. I think it's allergies. Check in with my GP. We'll get that sorted. Anyway, Substack. gilberthouse.substack.com, releasing articles. We've been doing it on a daily basis, 5 days a week, to get caught up with releases that we've been putting out on our gilberthouse.org website. If you subscribe there, you'll get one per week, but go to our Substack. Subscribe to the Substack. Nothing behind the paywall there, gilberthouse.substack.com. And just kind of follow along our writings about the ongoing spiritual war, supernatural war that goes back before Eden. News about our online store. we have had an online store where we've been shipping our books and DVDs from, used to be this room, used to be, no, it was the next bedroom over, was the store where we had all of the inventory. And Sharon, God bless her, for 18 months now has been doing the shipping. We've learned how to use the online store, the software, the shipping software to ship even internationally. We've been shipping things. God bless you, people in Canada, Norway, New Zealand, Australia, the UK have been kind enough to pay the shipping charges to send things internationally, and we are truly thankful for that. However, we are finding, for a couple of reasons, that just doing our own shipping and packaging is becoming more of a time obstacle for us than we want to continue. So we have wound down. By the time you're watching this, our online store has been wound down. Now, the URL is still there. So if you go to gilberthouse.org/store, you can still go there and find links to all of our books. It's just going to redirect you to Amazon. And when we've got something that's on a special at the Skywatch TV store, for example, in just a few weeks, the programs about our book, The Gates of Hell, will be out there, and there'll be a special offer. So we'll link you to that. But you can also go directly to Amazon, buy from Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and even the new, many of the books are now available as Audible audiobooks. Our streaming video site, we will also link there, because everything that we've got available on DVD that we've produced is available in streaming video, which is available instantly in full HD, which means much higher quality than what you get on a DVD. We're still in favor of, the hands-on media, but we're finding, number one, a lot of people don't have DVD players anymore. Oh, I've got the the thing turned on. Okay. Why do you do that, Apple? Why do you turn that on by default? That is really, really silly. Anyway, if you're not watching this, you're just listening in audio. I did a thumbs up, and of course, it just added this cute little bubble with a thumbs up icon in it. Not really necessary. Thank you, Apple. I'll be turning that off as soon as this video is done. Anyway, the streaming video site seems to be something we forget about discussing. And it's been there for the last couple of years, actually. We just keep forgetting to talk about it. So if you go to gilberthouse.org/video, you can get instant access to many of these videos that we've put together over the last few years, including our travel documentaries, our tour videos from Israel, DVD collections of our teachings, and you can rent them for as little as $3. Again, instant access in full HD for as little as $3. If you just want to rent it for 7 days, if you want permanent access, you can get it that way. And again, instant access without shipping, or if you live in a country with value added tax, no added tax as well. So, but as of this recording, no more shipping directly from our home, as we want to spend more time researching and writing instead of spending hours per day actually packaging things up and sending things out. We will still be taking things with us to conferences. If you want to buy something from us at a conference, we'll have our book table there, and we'll have a lot of DVDs that we'll need to shift now that we are not going to be shipping them out of our barn. But thank you for understanding. Again, thank you for patronizing and trusting us, because honestly, because we are a small operation, it's just Sharon and me. And because of my mobility issues the last couple of months, you see my staff back here that is now my constant companion just to keep my balance. I can only carry light loads. I can't carry the big baskets full of packages. So that's fallen to Sharon to do. And that just becomes more of a burden. So again, either we hire somebody, which we don't aspire to do, because we don't want the store to become self-perpetuating. We have a store because we need to pay somebody to run the store. We want the information to get out there, which is why we release articles for free, not behind a paywall, at our website, gilberthouse.org, and also at Substack. So anyway, if you are inclined to patronize. If you want to buy a copy of our book, or one of our books, or multiple copies of our books. So anyway, we will redirect you to Amazon. Amazon can give you, frankly, better pricing anyway and cheaper shipping than we can, because again, it's just Sharon and me who've been doing it. And thank you again for patronizing our little store for the last couple of years. I mentioned before the break, a new study has revealed something shocking about Gen Z. This is kids aged 18 to 28. And I realize if you're 28 years old, you may find offense in me describing you as a kid. But look, I'm 63 now. So to me, you're younger than our daughter. So you're a kid. Anyway, nearly 2/3 of Gen Z adults, 18 to 28, admit that they lack basic cooking skills. This is the result of a survey done by the dating app called Finding the One. And they found that the majority of Gen Z respondents to this survey, about 1,500 participants, admit that they prefer eating at a restaurant or getting takeaway because they do not know how to cook. Basic life skill that somehow we, the older generations, have not passed along to them. Just under half of them described the act of cooking as stressful and said the anxiety about cooking is what caused their reliance on takeaway meals and restaurant meals. Now, of course, when you're doing this, you're relying on, say, fast food or frozen dinners or just buying something picking it up for takeout. You are not eating as healthily as you can when you are preparing your own meals. That's just a basic fact. These foods that are prepared for long shelf-term storage in the grocery stores, or again, prepared for fast consumption using, say, seed oils to fry or what have you, prepare the food that you're taking away from the restaurant, not as healthy as what you can prepare at home. 42% in this survey said they couldn't cook a stir fry. 27% said they struggled to make soup. Soup. Can, pan, heat. Maybe they're talking about something a little more complicated, making your own soup from scratch. I don't know. But even that, making soup from scratch seems like a no-brainer. What's even more bizarre is that 1 in 4 people admitted to passing off food that they brought in from a restaurant or takeaway as a home-cooked meal, like trying to impress a date. Yes, I made this myself. Ignore the takeaway bags in the trash. But here's the thing that blew my mind, is that 61% of Gen Z adults in this survey, okay, kids age 18 to 28, 61% said they had trouble preparing an omelet. Now, an omelet doesn't need to be complicated. At its most simple, the omelet has one ingredient, and that is an egg. You basically put it in the pan and scramble it, or scramble it in the bowl and pour it into the pan, and omelet. So now again, it's tempting for us older folks, and I will say that Sharon has been such a blessing. I have not had to prepare my own meals to any degree in the last 28 years. This is something she has done, and she has done it willingly. So, and I am thankful for that. I did have a season in my life where I had to prepare meals for myself and for our daughter. I spent some months as Mr. Mom in between, before I met and married Sharon. So I know I can do it. I just haven't had to. But before we laugh at the Gen Zers, let's just remember that it was one of our jobs as in the older generation, to pass along this basic life skill. Because this is just one of the basic life skills that sadly younger generations are lacking. A lot of research out there from home repair centers like Lowe's and Home Depot, that the next generations, they are not going to do much business with those kids. But this is an opportunity. If you're in Gen Z, and you're looking at the job market and despairing, think about this. Learn a trade, HVAC contractor, electrician, home remodeler, just basic odd job. Man, if you master one of those skills, you will never lack for business. So anyway, omelet though, simple, 1 egg, scramble it up, dump it in the pan. Bless your pointy little head. Well, a couple of conferences to tell you about that are new to the schedule. First and foremost, I'll be in Canada in just a couple of weeks. This will be my first trip across the border since I was a kid. And my grandparents took us to the International Peace Gardens on the border between North Dakota and, what is it there? Saskatchewan? I should know my geography better than this. Forgive me, our Canadian friends. Anyway, that was just a quick trip. It was like, oh, this is Canada. Okay, time to get back to the car and go home. I will be there for the 24/7 Men's Discipleship Weekend, February 20th through 23rd. This will be at the Valley View Bible Camp in McGregor, Manitoba, about 90 minutes west of Winnipeg. The theme for the weekend, besides bringing men together for some serious discipleship, bringing men closer together and closer together with our Lord and Savior. The theme of the weekend, Giants, Gods, and Dragons, Recovering the Biblical Worldview of the Apostles and Prophets. So I'll be talking 8 times over the course of the weekend around that general theme and explaining why these strange, fantastical, in the minds of some creatures, giants, gods, and dragons, are in the Bible. Why did God put them in there if we're not supposed to believe in them? So we'll talk about that and why they are relevant to us as Christians today. If you want more information and you're thinking about joining us, you can find more information at the website of the Valley View Bible Camp, valleyviewbiblecamp.com. valleyviewbiblecamp.com. Look in the top menu bar where it says events. Click that link and you'll find information on the Men's Discipleship Weekend. In April 10th through 12th, right in our backyard practically, the Aliens, AI, and the Antichrist Conference. This is the Ready Now Expo from Morningside. This is in Blue Eye, Missouri. Sharon and I will both be speaking there, along with our friends Joe Horn, Donna Howell, L.A. Marzulli, Carl Gallups, and others. It's a 3-day get-together, April 10, 11, and 12 of 2025 at Morningside. Now, if you can't get to the Ozarks for this event, then please consider streaming it live. Only $25 to stream it. This will be a wonderful weekend. Are we entering the final frontier of humanity? And if so, is it something we should be concerned about? Well, yeah, it's relatively important, but be not afraid, as Jesus said. So more information at, you find it in the link at our website, gilberthouse.org. Look in the right-hand column there, go to the events tab at the website, or go to our app, and we will link to the website for the Aliens, AI, and the Antichrist Conference. We'll a lot of talking about end times prophecy, but how some of these strange things will be factoring into all of that. Then in June, the Mysteries of the Bible Verse Conference. This is June 13th and 14th at the Drury Plaza Hotel in Indianapolis, actually Carmel, which is just north of Indianapolis. Sharon and I both speaking twice that weekend, along with L.A. Marzulli. I think he's following us. Pastor Mike Hoggard, Mac Dominic, Micah Van Huff, and more. And we hope you join us for that. Sharon and I trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. I'm probably going to do a talk based on our book, The Gates of Hell, and possibly one about the book of 1 Enoch and why it is relevant to us today. In fact, how Jesus actually shared some teachings that come right out of the book of 1 Enoch. Again, that's the Mysteries of the Bible Verse Conference in Indianapolis, June 13th and 14th of 2025. More information at swrc.com. July 25th and 26th, the Go Therefore Conference in Brookville, Ohio. That's just outside Dayton, Ohio. The Harvest Revival Center will be the site for this again. Pastor Neil Peterson's church, Dr. Mike Spalding putting this together, and we look forward to joining you there because this has been just a real high point in our annual calendar the last few years, and it's an honor to be invited back for this. Again, July 25th and 26th. If you're in Western Ohio, Eastern Indiana, please consider joining us for the Go Therefore conference. More information to be announced. Now, another conference coming to the Ozarks, just announced, and the tickets will be going on sale this week. Going on sale of February 5th, 2/5 of 25. It is the Remnant Rising Conference, August 22nd through 24th of 2025. This is at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center in Springfield, Missouri. This is close enough to the airport that there's an airport shuttle, so you can fly into the Springfield Branson National Airport. The three-letter code is SGF. Easy to remember. Don't fly to Springfield, Illinois, or Springfield, Ohio, or Springfield, Massachusetts, or any of the other Springfields, anywhere. Springfield, Missouri, the Springfield Branson. I say this only half joking because we were at the Springfield, Missouri airport, and there was a fellow there who was very upset at the ticket counter, wanting to know why he didn't have a seat on the plane. It turned out that he had actually purchased seats on a flight flying from Springfield, Illinois, which is, about a 6-hour drive, 7-hour drive from where we're at. So please don't make that mistake. The airport SGF. Fly into Springfield, Branson if you're coming from elsewhere in the country. Take the airport shuttle to the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center. We will be there. Allie Marzilli will be there, and other speakers will be announced in the days ahead. More details coming at hearthewatchmen.com, hearthewatchmen.com. And then again, we will be back in Israel October 19th through 30th, God willing. This obviously depends on the security situation there. Just so you're aware, our special guests scheduled to be with us in the spring, Timothy Alberino, Doug Van Dorn, Dr. Judd Burton, because of schedule conflicts, will not be with us in October. Now, we're looking at dates next spring of 2026, probably after Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we will be there. Assuming they can make it, we're floating the dates to them. We'll confirm those as soon as we can. But again, if you're inclined to go this fall, join Sharon and me October 19th through 30th of 2025 with an optional 3-day extension into Jordan. And information and a link to the Lipkin Tours website is at gilberthouse.org/travel. That's gilberthouse.org/travel. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch or listen, as the case may be. Please, if you get a spare moment, leave us a review if you're subscribing via a podcatcher at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, wherever fine podcasts are sold. That's where you'll find us. Our announcer is the inimitable DC Good. And A View from the Bunker is a production of Gilbert House Ministries, released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Good night, Oliver, wherever you are. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is A View from the Bunker.